My name is Mayor Watt. I'm the mayor of ohmTown. That's ohmTown right there, ohmTown.com. I actually changed the menu to have these little icons and just kind of testing the waters there. If you are interested in noodling around with this kind of stuff, go over to ohmTown.com and give it a try. ohmTown is live and gets updated regularly. So there might be some glitches, some things, some quirkiness. But go check it out for me and come back and chat with me about the news. Today is the 29th of April, 2022, and I've got about 20 articles again. Before I get into it, the what is ohmTown, just so I include this at the beginning of every episode. ohmTown is a news aggregation site that I use in my personal and professional life. Aggregates hundreds of sources into 6 main categories: create, news, education, entertainment, social, and technology, with a big focus on the merging of 3 things: business, technology, and society. That's the context that I talk about. And as much as a lot of people don't really like discussing this, we are all tied into those 3 main things. Yeah, and society includes politics, and business includes politics, and technology includes politics. And today might have some politics stuff in it, and it might have some social specific things in it that aren't really about politics. But there's always tech, there's always business, there's always this merging of the 3 into a bunch of stuff underneath it, which is why I have 50 shows that I actually want to do weekly shows about, with ohmTown Daily News show being the one that is every day. Time may change where I do the show. So instead of 11 o'clock, which it is right now, I may move it to some other time frame as necessary. Right now, I do it at 11 o'clock because in the middle of the day, I want to take a break from what I do throughout my existence as mayor of ohmTown. There are other duties, but I like the real-time interaction with a bunch of people. I'm trying to drive more traffic to Twitch. I'm sort of doing a poor job of it. I don't really market. I don't go out and tell people about it, not locally, and not online. I even navigate through Twitch as Mayor Watt. I don't surf Twitch or online as ohmTown, which some people tell me is doing myself a disservice. But I don't like selling my channel in other people's channels. So please, if you hear this, please let other people know that ohmTown exists, and that it's a podcast, it's a YouTube channel. All you have to do is search for ohmTown. It's a Twitch channel, obviously, twitch.tv/ohmTown. This is where I'm streaming from. And for the duration, whoa, my stream just died. So my kilobits per second went from 6,000 to 1,000 to 12,000 and back to 6,000. So it's a heck of a buffer, but no dropped frames, but I saw dropped frames. Anyway, that's some inside baseball. Let's get into today's news. We've got an hour show. I'll probably be done quicker, and we'll get on either with just general discussion if there are people in my chat, or I'll just end it for today and we will continue on. I'm also working on shortening my URLs, but they're actually descriptive. So there is a really long URL to an article in the Hatch Ideas channel. There was a change to the look. Like I said, I changed names to some icons. I might change them again, but the category names actually show up when you mouse over it. I wanted to make it a little bit more streamlined for mobile, and it's easier with icons than with text. Text can kind of be obliterated by being too small, and if you limit it, then it's too big and takes up too much screen space. So a happy medium would be something symbolic of the text and the category. So I've got a screwdriver and a wrench for, it's not really a screwdriver, but two tools for create, information icon in a document for news, a graduation cap for education, kind of a pulse thing for entertainment, a couple of speech windows for social, and then a lightning bolt for technology. So I hope that makes sense. I will monitor performance and see if it remains. It may change. At any rate, the first article is over in the Hatch Ideas channel. Stocks making biggest move pre-market: Robinhood, Amazon, Apple, Roku, and more. The reason why I clicked on this is because Robinhood has been kind of getting raked over the coals lately with podcasts and people kind of talking it down because mainly because of how it reacted to meme stock machinations, particularly on Reddit. They actually stopped people from trading certain stocks. And to me, that seems rather unethical, regardless of their ability to manage the influx and the cash flows. They hindered other people's processing of stocks, and I think it's rather horrible, absolutely horrible. They impacted other people because of their limitations, not because of the other people's limitations. With that in mind, apparently their stock is trading off quite a bit. Amazon, Apple, Roku, and others, it's the largest moves in pre-market trading. So let's click that link. It'll take us over to CNBC and an article by Sarah Min. And it says here, oh, pardon me. I'm not actually using an ad blocker, so. It says here, Apple's stock price dipped 2% after CFO Luca Maestri said supply chain issues would hurt third quarter sales by as much as $8 billion. So everybody is getting hit by supply chain issues. And I just watched a video of people being bolted into their house in China. And we have just a massive amount of manufacturing being done in China because however you want to view it, that is what big business does. And even small business benefits from low-priced labor and limited, if any, controls on ecological impacts. There's much less regulation, much less monitoring, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it doesn't compare to the United States in terms of oversight. So with the ongoing COVID issue and people not getting vaccinated, et cetera, you end up where we are now with continued supply chain issues 2 years after all of this started. And you would think that it would be resolved, but even with the heavy-handedness of, I just so that you know, I watched a video of people being bolted into their house to control COVID in China. This isn't something I'm making up. And yet we have people that are complaining here in the United States that they are being marginalized because they don't have carte blanche to invade the capital. I think context matters quite a bit. And I'm just kind of caught off guard by the idea that there are problems. There are problems here in the U.S., but they pale in comparison to things that I see outside of the United States. And I'm sure somebody will come back and tell me, well, this is what you have to do to prevent that from happening. Well, no, that's not really what you need to do. Invading the capital is not what you need to do. Yeah, just stop being an extremist. How about that? Amazon shares dropped more than 9% after Amazon disclosed weaker than expected revenue guidance for the second quarter. Kind of is what happens when you do an uptick on the price of Prime by 30%. Shares of Roku popped more than 4% after the digital media player manufacturer on Thursday reported sales that exceeded expectations. Well, a lot of people shifted over to Roku because they thought that that was a better solution than something else. Intel shares fell more than 3% after weak guidance for its fiscal quarter, overshadowing stronger than expected earnings for the previous quarter. That might be something in the machinations of the business processes. I can almost guarantee that it was impacted by COVID and another lockdown in China. Robinhood, the retail brokerage stock, dropped nearly 10% following first quarter report that showed declining revenue and monthly active users. It's because they burned a bunch of people, so I'm not surprised. Alibaba, not Alibaba, my gosh. Alibaba, Pinduoduo, I've never heard of, but Baidu I have. Chinese technology stocks surged after policymakers in the country signaled an easing of the crackdown on tech companies. Alibaba rallied more than 10%. Pinduoduo soared 15%, and Baidu jumped more than 8%. To me, I'm conflicted with any stock that's over there. That's housed in China. Bristol Myers Squibb, biopharmaceuticals, dipped 1.5% despite strong earnings. Well, I mean, that's kind of how it works. The company forecasted to earn 1.91 per share on revenues of 11.36 billion, according to Refinitiv. I've never heard of Refinitiv, but biopharmaceuticals kind of live and die based on people living and dying. So I'm not surprised. They will make up for it in the next quarter, depending on what they do. And there are others. We'll hear about ExxonMobil here in another article. It says here, though, ExxonMobil stock price dipped 1% after the oil and gas company reported weaker than expected quarterly results. The energy company earned $2.07 per share, lower than Refinitiv's estimate of 2.12 earnings per share. ExxonMobil reported revenues of $90.5 billion compared to Refinitiv's $92.7. So this article is relying on this Refinitiv company and its analysis. That said, we're going to hear about Exxon here in a little bit. So let's continue on. The next article is in the continuity report. Hot Docs premiere Atomic Hope about pro-nuclear movement drops trailer. So Irish director Frankie Fenton explores the movement of global activists who believe nuclear power is our best hope to fight climate change in Atomic Hope Inside the Pro-Nuclear Movement, which world premieres May 3rd at the Hot Docs Canadian International Documentary Festival. So I'm going to click the link and take us over there. To Variety and an article written by Christopher Vorlius. And let's see here. So my hot take is, I think, and it's kind of ironic considering Atomic, I am actually pro-nuclear, but we need research that facilitates making atomic energy more ecologically and economically sound. It's extremely expensive to spin a nuclear power plant. It's also nothing more than a steam engine. It generates tremendous amount of heat. There are materials that are superheated, and it spins a turbine. And that is all of that nuclear power's responsibility, is to heat up, essentially. I'll simplify it because it depends on the material. But it's simply to create steam and turn a turbine. And in that process, there are things that become irradiated, and somebody has to deal with all of that stuff, that nuclear waste. and it previously has been glassified and put into barrels and left to rot inside barrels that we have no control over except to put them in ever bigger barrels or break up the material and put it in smaller barrels, but it's always in some form where it degrades over time and contaminates the environment. Well, more research has been done, and we've found ways to reduce that nuclear effect, or that nuclear contamination effect. But we still need more, and we need ways to make it more efficient. It says here, Fenton admits that he was as much a nuclear energy skeptic as the next when he began researching the film. I'm like anybody else, he says. I started off being anti-nuclear and being scared of even the word nuclear, and the director told Variety, the subject matter is so embedded in our culture, especially in our pop culture, that it's almost unthinkable to be pro-nuclear starting off. And yeah, it's because we have been scared time and time again by the reality of our previous iterations of nuclear power generation. And then you get things like Chernobyl. Chernobyl fell apart, and that just created a resurgence of issues. And then you have Japan, where a natural disaster turned into a man-made disaster, and it's an ongoing disaster. And so we have been kind of pecked again and again by this fear that there's going to be something catastrophic coming from a nuclear power plant. And I'm not surprised. Sociologically, it's pretty sound to be worried about nuclear power, but it is something that can be resolved, but it takes research. And that's what education is all about. Doing fundamental research at the university level, and then taking it private and doing additional private-public interaction, because this is not something that can be entirely private. The enrichment of nuclear material can become fissile material and used as a dirty bomb or an actual atomic bomb, not just dirty. And so here we are, documentary. So go and read that article and watch the documentary. And the documentary is called Atomic Hope. So I'm going to continue on. The next article is over in Smack Talk, Apple Self-Repair Program, Studio Display Update, and WWDC Rumors on the Apple Insider Podcast. So on this week's Apple Insider Podcast, Apple launches its self-service repair program. A beta firmware update slightly improves the Studio Display FaceTime camera. Apple Podcasts adds new collections, and there's a new iOS, watchOS, WWDC rumors, etc., etc. I'm going to click the link and take you over to appleinsider.com, and there's an article written by Stephen Robles, or Robles. I'm not quite sure. I've never met him. I don't know if that's how he pronounces it. So go over and check out the Apple Insider TV on YouTube and the podcast on Apple and elsewhere. I have no relationship with Apple Insider. It's just something that I aggregate news from and talk about the items. I'm somewhat familiar with all of this to begin with, but it's always a smart move to verify what you are learning from other locations with other sources that you respect and that others respect. And it's kind of like writing a research paper. Your references, your citations, your works cited become the foundation of what you are writing about. So that's why I aggregate news and information so that I'm better informed. So go over and check it out over at Apple Insider. And the title of the article is Apple Self-Repair Program, Studio Display Update, and WWDC Rumors on the Apple Insider podcast. I'll continue on. The next article is in Smack Talk as well. New Apple TV Plus Charlie Brown special announced for Mother's Day. Aww. So Apple TV has released a trailer for To Mom and Dad, that's in parentheses, with Love, a new Peanuts special that will stream from May 6, 2022. While other kids are excited to celebrate the special day, for Peppermint Patty, it's just a reminder that she didn't grow up with a mom. Oh, that's sad, writes Apple in a press release. With her good friend Marcy by her side, she soon realizes that real families, come in all shapes and sizes, and that Mother's Day is an opportunity to thank the special person in your life who means the most to you. So let's click the link. It'll take us over to Apple Insider, and it has a great little screenshot. It's an article written by William Gallagher, and it draws attention to this Apple Plus trailer. So it looks like it's over on YouTube as well, so you can go and check that out on YouTube. And obviously, you can read a little bit more over on Apple Insider. Thank you, Apple Insider. The next article that we're going to talk about briefly is in the Mobile Channel, a computer system that analyzes chemical waste and proposes ways to make new products from it. This is kind of one of those concepts that I talk about periodically, which is we need to continue the research. We need to drive money into that research. We need to promote education. We need to have new eyes looking at stuff, old stuff, and finding better ways to deal with it, and not just bury it. There are often times where we'll hear a news story about chemical waste in barrels thrown off the coast of the United States, off the California coast. Just recently, there was another deposit of DDT barrels found, and you could actually see where it was killing it was contaminating the soil around it and killing anything in range of the contamination. And just kind of disheartening. And so anything that has the ability to look at our byproducts and find new ways to either deal with it or turn it into something else is always a win. So this says an international team of researchers have developed a computer system that can analyze a sample of chemical waste and create the routes to synthesize new, useful chemicals. In their paper published in the journal Nature, the group describes the work that went into creating the system and how well it worked when they tested it by synthesizing chemicals from waste samples. So this is a phys.org article written by Bob Yurka of phys.org. And the article is titled, again, A Computer System That Analyzes Chemical Waste and Proposes Ways to Make New Products from It. As the researchers note, the chemical industry generates an enormous amount of waste. Manufacture of products like pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, and fertilizers produces waste products consisting of a large number of molecules. Chemists have long sought what they could describe as circular chemistry, where the waste created by one process is used as a base material to create other products. But as the researchers also note, finding a way to do it is problematic. They point out that even a waste sample with a small number of molecules can generate millions of routes toward the creation of a new product. And for some reason, what comes to mind is ever concentrated waste byproducts. So you create something good and it has a ton of byproduct, and then you take that ton of byproduct and you create something good, and next to it is a factor of 100 concentrated bad byproduct, and so you have a tenth of the remaining byproduct, but it's just horribly contaminated. And then you find something else and you end up turning it into I don't know, rations or something. I just don't know. Pardon, my throat is starting to get scratchy. Anyway, so It is a great idea, and I hope that it actually turns into something effective. And this could be a multi-billion-dollar program if it is effective and efficient in providing guidance to create new products from waste products. The next article is in the Daily News Show. A key inflation gauge jumped 6.6%. An inflation gauge closely tracked by the Federal Reserve jumped 6.6% in March, compared with a year ago, the highest reading in 4 decades. Further evidence that surging prices are pressuring household budgets and the health of the economy. This article's over at ABC News, written by Christopher Rugaber, AP economics writer. So the article's title is actually a key inflation gauge jumped 6.6% in March, most since 1982. Let me pause this. There's always a video, and I wanted to pause it because it is not really a happy video, and it's not necessarily, it is not aligned with the article. Not sure why it's like that. Says, let's see, the highest 12-month jump in 4 decades and further evidence that spiking prices are happening. Again, I think that it's all about fuel. Fuel costs are rising, and because of that, everybody is increasing their costs all the way up to the retail side. And leaning into this is that we are moving out of the pandemic. Pardon me. We're getting out of the pandemic, and profiteering is taking place. Do I agree with it? No, not really. I don't think. I mean, we're all in this together. We're all suffering the same way at the middle class and lower, but the upper class is able to withstand this burden a whole lot easier than those of us who are not in the upper class. Let me tell you, when your entire monthly budget in the US, let's just say a random number, is $1,500 a month, and you have to pay $100 more a month in overall bills, you're talking about close to 10% of your entire monthly income. And it's amazing. People will sit there and say, well, you're getting paid $35,000 a year. Yeah, you know what? And 10% of that at minimum is going into taxes. So I'm not taking home that amount of money, and odds on I'm going to be paying more taxes. We're talking about 25, 33% sometimes. It really all depends on what you do with your money and how much your taxable income it ultimately is. It's kind of ridiculous. And then you have somebody that is making in 1 month more money than several humans are making in their entire lifetime. So where is the source of inflation? I don't believe that it is death by 1,000 cuts. I think that it stems from profiteering at certain manufacturing levels, primarily gas and oil, record profits month over month. And they're saying, well, it's because the costs are higher, but if costs are higher and you're still demanding 30% margins and you're increasing costs to consumers, it seems to me that it is profiteering, and all you're doing really is extracting wealth from those that are going to be harmed the most by inflation, borne by the very manufacturers of the inflationary trend, those that are producing oil and gas. It is basically the foundation of everything having to do with business and life in general. And now we're opening the doors to business and life in general. And the downward pressure is spiking prices across the board. And when I did my research, I kept on peeling back layer after layer of the onion and ultimately came to the conclusion that fuel is the main driver. And then with the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which really I can't call it a conflict because Russia invaded Ukraine. That's it. And now Ukraine is defending itself, and everybody in Europe and elsewhere is being extorted for that fuel because Russia is invading Ukraine. I mean, it's really a weird dynamic. And here we are, increased prices across the board, and the people that are suffering the most are the people that can't afford to bear the burden of increased prices across the board. So go over to the website ABC News, and you can do or follow the link that's in chat. If you missed it in chat, then follow the link in the show notes. But you can always go over to ABC News and just do a search for a key inflation gauge jumped 6.6% in March, and that will pull up the article. The next article, because what I do is give a rather holistic review of news from various sources, about 200 of them, into my aggregator, which is ohmtown.com. Sometimes you'll get a politically aligned discussion, and sometimes you'll get this, which is, here comes the weekend, let's get ready for it. This is in the Order of the Grape channel, which I hope to bring to Twitch. And it says, as margarita drinkers know, the key to perfecting the cocktail is using high quality tequila and triple sec and freshly squeezed lime juice. So let's take a look at the source of this, which is typically VinePair. They produce quite a bit of content. Sometimes it's on target for me. Other times it's purely informative for just the stream in general. And welcome to those who are in chat. I appreciate you stopping by. If you have questions or comments, feel free to throw them in chat. Hopefully you can hear me okay. This article over at vinepair.com is written by Tim McCurdy, and it's titled The 14 Best Margarita Mixes Tasted and Ranked, which is always good. If you don't know what you are mixing, you might want to go and check it out from other people. And so I like to include it because I've got a bunch of shows that are dedicated to either drink or music or movies across the board. Here in entertainment is all of the drinking ones, and then one music one that I want to start. But there are others, like the Continuity Report is all about movies. But number 14 on their list is Jose Cuervo Classic Margarita Mix, which is like a standard. Hello, Dreadnought. How are you? This margarita mix is like a standard thing on every shelf of a liquor store. And I'm not going to go through all of it, but I'll show you some of them, and then you can go over to VinePair. You just follow that link. And I wish that there was a way for my chat messages to stick in chat so people can go and see them when they come in, but it doesn't always happen that way. It's kind of a bummer. Like, I've never even seen this margarita mix. I've not seen this margarita mix, not yet. There's so many out there, but like the standard go-to is the Jose Cuervo ones. And there you go. I'm going to scroll down real fast to number 1 just so I can show it. Yeah, and I've never even heard of this one. Withco Agave Margarita. So making your own is kind of a badge of honor, but when you don't have time and you just want to mix it all up and it has been tried and tested, then that's what you do. You just go and buy some mix and get it done. And good tequila is always better with a good mix. So I'm going to continue on to the next article, and that's in Hatch Ideas, and it says, I clicked on this and wanted to talk about it because I have never heard of this before. And the title is just, it's kind of amazing. I'm a fish sommelier at a Hawaii resort who gets paid to recommend dishes to guests. And here's how I landed the job. That's the title of this article. I won't go too deep into it because, like I tell everybody every time I do the show, I don't read the article prior to the show. I don't read the article until I'm actually doing the stream. My aggregator grabs a little snippet and I read it really quick. This is Ryan Hauser, 28, is a fish sommelier at Mina's Fish House at the Four Seasons Resort in Oahu. He goes table to table each night to show guests fresh fish options and give recommendations. And this is what his job is like, as he told to writer Jenny Powers. So let's go over to the site and I can introduce you to Business Insider, and Jenny Powers is the author of the article. And there's Ryan Hauser working as a fish sommelier. I thought sommelier was focused on wine, but I guess you could be you can be a sommelier of anything. I'm going to start calling myself a news sommelier, where I'm going from article to article and introducing you to today's sample. That's kind of interesting. Let's see. Yeah, I guess so, right? It just kind of makes you wonder. This person, by the way, could probably start up a YouTube channel and make bank, because anybody that's into it and passionate and at least comes across somewhat presentable to the human race. And if you're in a restaurant talking to people about it, you could probably get a massive following. There's a YouTube channel called Tasting History that I watch on the regular. They drop a new episode every Tuesday, and they have a drinking history channel that they're spinning up too. But they used to work for Disney, and ended up, they're just very engaging, and it's a lot of fun to watch, even though it's kind of short episodes. But they talk about history and food. It just makes me hungry. Even though some of it is really bad, like hardtack. They talk about hardtack, and are similar in presentation, sort of, to the Townsends, which, if you've never heard of them, they do something similar, in that they talk about historical food and life in general. So imagine going from table to table. On a typical night, we serve approximately 250 to 300 dishes. And before dinner service begins, I attend a staff briefing where we learn about any VIPs dining with us this evening, how many guests are expecting, and what standards we need to improve upon that particular day. Yeah, push the salmon. Push the salmon. So go check it out over at Business Insider. The next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. 73% of people don't regularly follow a budget, and that's okay, says a financial therapist. And the reason why I clicked this is because of the previous articles about finance. People are kind of getting crushed by inflation. This is an article by Mike Winters over at CNBC. And it says, in fact, 73% of Americans say they don't regularly follow a budget, according to a recent survey by OpLoans, a loan servicing company. What's more, 1 in 10 respondents say they don't keep any sort of budget at all. They surveyed only 1,015 people across the U.S. earlier this year. But they say, do you need to track every single dollar in and out? Absolutely not. A budget is for making sure you have a plan to understand where your money is going. I have a plan. It's going everywhere but into long-term savings, it seems. Do you need, in addition to the hassle of tracking expenses, sticking to a budget is, quote unquote, hard for people psychologically, end quote, as they tend to associate them with self-denial, says Evans. Yeah, it's kind of tough. I know that I don't like sticking to a budget. I have, I guess you could refer to it as impulse control issues. And so, Dreadnought, you said less people budget and save nowadays. That's an interesting observation because nowadays, because of the pandemic, all kinds of people are saying that uh, people everywhere have more money because they weren't spending it. And I think that's rather absurd. Um, did people keep on spending? Yeah. Did they spend on going out? No. But they still had to spend on existing in life. And they still went out and got food. They still went out and got drinks. They still went out and did stuff. They just didn't go out and spend it willy nilly on going to a movie theater or something like that. No, they spun up purchasing Apple TV or Disney Plus or HBO or whatever. Not CNN Plus since it imploded. Apparently nobody wanted that one. But they consumed elsewhere. But when you talk to financial analysts, they are saying that people save their money and now they're trying to do something with it. But that is not my experience. From the people that I've spoken to, they didn't save anything. In fact, they're spending more over the last 2 years because prices have been continuing up. And in the last 5 months or so, it has skyrocketed in costs. I'd say by the end of the first half of this year, it's going to be the uptick in the consumer price index is going to be the entirety of last year, all in one half of this year. Because I'm watching the numbers tick up really fast in just the first quarter. Now we're starting the second quarter, and it's still ticking up fast, almost going vertical. Um, that said, I can't it's tough for me to get too far into the reads with this kind of stuff without getting some things planned for the show. But I'll probably end up doing a single weekly show focusing on business, small business, startup kind of community. Not the big like Silicon Valley startup. I mean, it's big and present and whatnot, but not really reality. Not everybody has that kind of money being thrown at them, and it's it's just not my bag. I'm more interested in helping very small businesses, solo practitioners solve problems and anticipate issues and exploit techniques and technologies and things like that, answer questions. So we'll end up doing something like this, talking about um, budgets and finance and running a business. But let's continue on. The next article involves Mark Cuban. I think this one was really fascinating just based on the title of it. It says Mark Cuban says TikTok is the future of sports media, and here's why. Mark Cuban says TikTok's AI algorithms tailor its suggestions to both short attention spans and users' potential or personal interests. Pardon me 1 second. Making it perfect for sports. So Mark Cuban says TikTok is perfect for sports. This article is over at CNBC and it's written by Meg Sauer. And let's see, on a recent episode of the Colin Cowherd, is it really Cowherd? Podcast hosted by Fox Sport anchor Colin Cowherd. Cuban called TikTok the future of sports media, noting that the app's AI-fueled algorithm tailor its suggestions to both short attention spans and users' personal interests. And it's kind of something that I've been talking about with people in that the reason why Twitter is really popular is because everything is a short, pithy statement, kind of short attention span driven. You get your message out and then you clean up whatever verbiage you might have stumbled over. Like I did an announcement on my stream just froze again, dropped to 1500 kilobits and then spiked to 9000 and then settled back down to where I stream out at which is 6,000. Anyway, sorry for the distraction. So we are in information overload, and so we want our news in fits and starts. So that's why I actually have 20 articles that are very brief and a way for you to get to the information fast. That's why the show notes exist. So I am trying to follow along with the way that I consume, which is I parse a ton of information every day, and then I talk about it briefly here on the show. Well, TikTok is even shorter. It says here MLB's TikTok account has 5 million followers, making it relatively popular, but last season's set a new record for longest average 9-inning game, 3 hours, 10 minutes, and 7 seconds, according to the commissioner's office. So then you just kind of chop it all up and throw up a whole bunch of TikToks that encompass the progression of the game and pithy elements therein. Even YouTube has now YouTube Shorts, which are very close to TikTok in how they're consumed. And that actually changes the dynamic because YouTube and other online media platforms want you to be more engaged for a longer period of time. Twitch wants you to be long form. Twitter is this short, pithy statement, and that's what they're focusing on. And I am betting that they're going to roll out a TikTok clone. So Dreadnought says 30 seconds is too short for sports. Yeah, for understanding the entirety of the game, yeah. But 30 seconds is adequate in, again, kind of like the Twitter pithy little statement that lets people consume exactly what the creator of that TikTok wants messaged. And it's really more about messaging, trying to get people to engage and talk about it. And even through the misperception, because it's too short, like you say, and I agree, what it does is it causes limited outrage, enough for somebody to come in, consume, either get it right or wrong in their interpretation of what's being presented, and then they talk about it. And that's literally the foundation of hype, of viral. If I can cause you to, yes, a quick highlight. If I can have you respond immediately, then you are engaged and it's confirmed that you're engaged. Whereas long form, long media requires you to sit and ponder, and like Vice articles, reading a Vice article, there are people that are passionate about the subject of that Vice article, and so they'll read it long form. But if I take little snippets of it and throw it onto my TikTok, if I read it out loud, pithy little statements, people will gather to that. And then some will go over to the Vice article. Now, that's why I keep this to 1 hour and about 20 articles. But I actually like just hanging out and chatting with people in chat. So this stream could turn into, well, it can't because I've got meetings, but it's tough being mayor. It really is. But I would love to hang out and just talk more about these articles and just kind of flip through them with people, which in time may actually happen. It really depends on how much people engage and want to hang out. So let's continue on to the next article. The next article is in The Word in Tech. That's another channel that I want to bring, and it's streamers say reported cuts to Twitch payouts won't go down well. There is this ongoing discussion about what's happening with Twitch, in that they're going to downsize pay and require more advertising. I'm not sure what is actually going to happen, and we will see as time goes on. But rumors aside, it says, as reported by Bloomberg News, Twitch is considering a number of changes to increase the revenue it collects from its most popular streamers. These include encouraging streamers to run more ads, reducing revenue share for streamers from 70 to 50%, a favorable deal only available to some of the platform's biggest draws, and introducing a new tier system allowing streamers to graduate through different revenue splits based on set metrics. Let's click this link. It'll take us over to The Verge, and James Vincent is the author. I am not surprised by this kind of thing. First off, whenever I tend to get engaged in something really dramatic happens. People around me are like, well, I don't know, maybe it's just your timing, and I don't know. I count myself as a cooler, so things become much more pragmatic. Things become much more realistic, I guess you could say. The romance period is gone. And that's actually normally when I get brought into an organization to try and save things and streamline them, make them more efficient and effective. But we don't know what goes on behind Twitch's closed doors because it's a wholly owned subsidiary of of Amazon. And not only is it wholly owned, but it doesn't even get disclosed as a breakout in the SEC filings that are required by publicly traded companies. It's just a footnote, essentially, one of many assets that are managed by Amazon. That said, it says here, as a concession, Twitch would release partners from exclusivity clauses, letting them stream on rivals like YouTube and Facebook. And Bloomberg stressed that updates to the partnerships program aren't finalized and could be abandoned, while Twitch refused to comment on the news to the publication. So Dreadnought says it's to get verified users to keep going or lose the verified badge, basically. I don't know about losing the badge, because once you're verified, I don't think anybody has lost a verified badge due to declines. You just end up, if you're partner, that's a different animal. But that affiliate badge, the affiliate designation, really doesn't have any metrics behind it other than those initial, you hit the certain target of 50 subscribers or followers, I should say, and then you move on to hitting the partnership goal. And then it's just there's minutia in a contract when you get to a certain level after that. But there's so much that goes on behind closed doors, and nobody talks about the processes they're in. For instance, like let me see, I'll pull up mine, because I'm not even an affiliate yet, so I only have 40 followers. I need to get to 50, and that's pretty much where I am, because I only stream an hour a day, so people don't find a lot of value in that 1 hour. And I've been told that by others that I need to stream more, longer time. I do it every day, but only for an hour. And I'm already brushing up against a meeting that I need to attend to, and I'm halfway through my stream. So you can imagine, yeah. So, and the average doesn't tend to be a problem. I want more. I mean, like every streamer wants more. But I said earlier in this particular stream, I don't go to other channels as ohmTown. I go as Mayor Watt. And unless somebody actually asks me about what I'm the mayor of, I don't even talk about ohmTown on Twitch. I don't promote it in places, but not because I don't think that it's of value. I think it's a fun show. Would be more fun with more engagement, because I tend to riff off of the people around me. And I joke around and goof around and stuff like that. But when it's just me, I'm straight to business. I talk about the articles from that context that I mention periodically. So once you hit those metrics, then you're affiliate, and then you go up to another level, and then you're partner, and then there's contracts that are granted to certain people. Like Co-Carnage is in a contract with Twitch, and it's something different than being a partner. And there are many others that are in the same kind of boat. But when you get that little check mark, I think that check mark stays. That said, people are not receiving the rumor, just the rumor. It says here, Jacksepticeye says, what a joke, makes it worse for everyone except Twitch themselves. And that's what I say about most things, wherein people put all of their eggs in the basket of somebody else, and then the basket gets taken. And that can happen at a moment's notice. YouTube, I spun up a project once with somebody else, and YouTube summarily closed the channel. No notice, they said that it was in violations of terms of service, but it wasn't, because we had licensed music, we were steady streaming, etc. I appealed, nobody responded. It took 4 months for a response, and that response was, we should never have closed that channel. But by that time, the damage had been done, because all of our marketing effort, all of our everything basically shuttered, and it looked like we ghosted everybody. And so we never spun it back up. We basically just cut our losses and said, well, we're not going to do this again. Rely on somebody else. And as far as Twitch is concerned, I'm relying on Twitch to facilitate this. But if it really becomes worst, I will have to spin up my own streaming channel elsewhere. And there's really nothing that I can do about it, because this is a free service provided to everybody involved, and those who feel passionate enough to follow me. And then if once I become partner and they want to subscribe, then they'll subscribe. But really everything is processed through Twitch. So other than me using them for free to get faces looking at me and me interacting with people who are interested in the content, I'm not doing anything. My money was spent on setting up all of this, and nothing on Twitch, other than I pay for no ads on Twitch, and I pay subscription fees to various streamers. I don't know, I think I've got about 10 or 15 streamers that I subscribe to on the regular, and others in fits and starts, as I have time to consume. So if they start cutting the profitability of streamers, I can imagine that streamers will look elsewhere and take their audience with them. But not everybody wants to leave Twitch. It's so seamless. You just log in and boom, you've got everybody at your disposal right there. Anybody that you want to follow. And it costs nothing other than the ads. And so we'll see what happens. Today might have something new on the horizon. I haven't been looking into the rumors about Twitch since last night, and nothing really fundamental has changed. So, but since this morning, I've been in meetings. So let's continue on to the next article. And yeah, big companies can get petty, but it's my problem with, and not a problem with you, Dreadnought, but my problem with the interpretation of that phrase is that I've always disliked the idea of referring to a company as a company and government as a government. It's the people within it that make all of this happen, right? So there is somebody acting petty that does a what do they? Oh my gosh, a shadow ban, right? So you can go over to Reddit and you can offend somebody in a vacuum. But they have enough power to just shadow ban you, and you don't even know about it until somebody says, hey, you messaged me about this and I didn't get it because you're shadow banned, or you log in or you don't log in and you look at a thread and suddenly you're shadow banned. And that can happen in marketing efforts and machine learning or artificial intelligence should have thrown your channel in the marketing stream, right, on the front page or something. But because somebody didn't like your particular content, they nix you, they lower your rank, or they shadow ban you from promotion. And it happens all over the place. The sociological forces in business are massive, and it comes down to the person, not this disembodied entity called a business, not this disembodied entity called government. It's the individuals that make it up. We are ruled by the people, not by the business. That is all just kind of bogus, where somebody goes, well, the business made me do it. No, 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 no. You did it. Or there isn't enough social movements to change the rules to fit the current paradigm. It's just kind of one of the, it's a pet peeve of mine, and not really anything having to do with that, with what you're saying, because what you're saying is true. It's just that there are bodies in there. And that's what I want to draw attention to. It wasn't Enron that acted in bad faith. It was 16 people that led from the top down, told everybody to be complete tools and do unethical and immoral things, manipulated numbers, et cetera, et cetera. It's the humans inside it that need to be addressed. So sorry for the soapbox. Let's continue on. The next article is in the Daily News Show. Fireball spotted over southern Mississippi, and NASA confirms it. A loud boom prefaced a streaking fireball spotted in 3 southern states. Just a word of warning, that was probably my career. If anybody finds it, please get in touch with me. I will come and pick it up. This is an ABC News article. Fireball spotted over southern Mississippi. So I don't think this is... I don't think that is the... I don't know why they do this, but they throw this video up and it doesn't have anything to do with the fireball. Anyway, more than 30 people in Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi reported seeing the exceptionally bright meteor in the sky. If anybody finds this thing, I don't know if it landed somewhere, but let's see if it says here in the article. The object, which scientists called a bolide, moved southwest at a speed of 55,000 miles per hour. Again, that's my career, smashing into the earth and setting off career dissipation sensors, which you hear periodically when there's smoke in the room. That's my career dissipation sensor. Let's see, Dreadnought, you said, true, but hard to single out one employee as they are anonymous, so easier to say company. True. Nope. I totally understand the context of why people say it the way that they say it. That's kind of why I don't like things happening in the dark. I actually say this periodically, that abuse happens in the dark, and when you are anonymous, you can do quite a bit of abuse. So I totally agree. It's hard to single out an employee. That's why we have people that do investigative journalism too. And that's why I like freedom of the press and whistleblowers and things like that. Because nobody should be able to hide behind the label of a company when it's their actions that are causing harm to the population. It's the same thing that happened with that one Chad dude. I forgot his name. He started jacking up the prices for pharmaceuticals, and ultimately he got busted for it. So eventually people get tired of somebody's crap and they call them out. And I'm a proponent of that. I don't think a single person should be able to abuse the masses, or even a dozen people. I mean, it really shouldn't be a few being able to control the many. But I also don't like mob rule, and we should all have rules. We should all have policy and procedure that we can agree on. Sometimes people take it way absurd, and think that there shouldn't be any rules, and you can't live in chaos. So let's see. The Claiborne County Emergency Management Agency posted a statement on Facebook confirming the reports and noting that Grand Gulf Nuclear Station was not involved. I like little statements like that. Something flies through the air, and nuclear power is suddenly possible. So I mentioned in a previous article about Exxon, and this is what I was talking about, because stocks were being impacted by inflation and other issues. And what I said in previous episodes and in this one is identical. You cannot have billions in profits and increased costs without without the public paying the price. So, for instance, if the increase in costs raised the price equal to the previous profit margin, so you always had the profit margin, you would be static. You would be in stasis. You'd have the exact same profit. But here we have costs for raw materials for Exxon increasing, but the price at the pump is surging to the point where Exxon is getting profit, record profit, every month. Well, meanwhile, we have inflation, and this is what it is that I say is causing inflation. You can't have increased costs and increase profits without either losing your margin or keeping your margin and driving the cost to consumers through the roof. So that's what's happening. You can't get anything from point A to point B without using fuel unless you're using human capital, and well, that's really inefficient. So here we are. Record profits, supposedly record costs, and inflation. So that profit margin is staying the same for the business. They're not reducing their profit margin to maintain some type of stability anywhere. This is the key cause of inflation, in my opinion, and everybody else is following suit because everything else goes up when the raw materials and the method of getting them to a location goes up. That's pretty much standard business practice. But instead of absorbing some of the loss and keeping things stable, they're seeking short-term profit. And to me, it's profiteering during a crisis. And to me, it's unethical, but I'm not a billionaire. That's probably why I'm not a billionaire. So let's go over to the article. It's over at ABC News, and Kathy Busewitz from AP and is a business writer. So let me pause this. And ExxonMobil reported $5.48 billion in profits. So this is after they've paid all of their. This is after they've paid for everything. Okay, this is the profits on top of it. Now there's a CEO that's making quite a bit of money. I'd have to go and look what their current salary is, but I don't know it off the top of my head. And they're going to earn bonuses because the company got profits. But 5.48 billion in profits. And sure, I'm sure there's some closed door kind of profiting off of arbitrage. They're buying and selling oil elsewhere, and selling it elsewhere, and buying it elsewhere. So this machination between making money on the margin between buying and selling something, I'm sure that plays into it. But gas has skyrocketed, interest has skyrocketed. This is where they're making their billions. So let's see here. But with oil giant took a hit as it abandoned its Russia operations due to the war, writing down 3.4 billion. Well, that's going to get subsidized by government. So don't worry about them. You can't do this write down because you lost something due to the Russia operations. It's not Russia, it's a Russian invasion of Ukraine. Call it what it is. And so it says here, including that loss, the oil giant reported profits of $1.28 per share Friday, which is well below expectations of analysts polled by FactSet, who were looking for $2.23 per share. Yet record profits. So let's see. It was reported that Russia demanded to be paid in rubles. That way the sanctions wouldn't be as harsh. And it would prop up the ruble. So, yeah. And everything is currently conducted in US dollars. So that is the fiscal instrument of exchange. It is the reserve currency for these oil transactions. Some want it shifted over to Bitcoin. Others want it shifted over to the euro. But out of all of the currencies that have existed, the US dollar has been the most stable and open. So, like changing it to some other currency, it could be manipulated by the administration. But there's so many people invested in the US dollar that it's hard to manipulate it, so to speak. That said, there's a lot of billionaires that are controlling a tremendous amount of wealth. Yes. And it's new and it's constrained. And to me, Bitcoin is an abstract unit of exchange that's only accepted because there are people that are already holding Bitcoin. It has no inherent value. It's not pegged to anything except other currencies, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I can go on and on. But suffice it to say that Bitcoin is wildly unstable and prone to the whims of a single person tweeting something. So that instability kind of makes it ripe for abuse. So, like other times, I always promote makers on the stream sometimes whenever something of interest crosses my path. And this is in the Bead Baby channel, which I hope to bring to Twitch as a real-time auction show about jewelry and jewelry findings and maker created goods and services. It says many macrame jewelry artisans incorporate gemstones, metal, beads, glass, etc. And let's click the link and just take us over to the Beading Gem, which is it's a personal website, but it has a lot of business in it. And this is a Pearl Blay. I have no relationship with the beadinggem.com website, other than I find it really interesting what artisans can create with things, random things at times. This actually is macrame and has various things integrated into it. And I always find stuff like this interesting, almost inspirational in terms of, hey, you can include this in your writing, something that spurs creativity. You could include this in artwork, etc. It's just something that is outside the norm and might inspire you to do something else. Obviously, you can always go to these Etsy stores, but I'll scroll up and let me post this in chat just so that I follow my normal process and I don't get too distracted. So go over to the Beading Gem and check it out. The next article is in the order of the grape, the best reusable and sustainable straws ranked. Yeah, it's a tremendous amount of skill. People do these things called wire wrapping, and man, it is spectacular. Some of the stuff that people produce. I know that if I tried hard enough, I still couldn't make what some of these people make. And it's just amazing how much untapped, how much undiscovered, I should say, like sleepers are sitting out there with a tremendous amount of skill that just they're overwhelmed by competition, so nobody sees them. And that's why I like talking about it. I will never be at that level, and so I like to promote it. Um, my skills are in other areas, so I'm in the business side and tech side, um, and I'm more interested in promoting musicians and artists and artisans like this, and other people that are even more skilled and they're passionate about it. So I clicked on this because I have heard time and time again about reusable and sustainable straws and whatnot, and people like to post pictures of reusable, or not a reusable, but a sustainable straw in a plastic wrapper, completely ignoring the fact that that particular type of plastic is biodegradable, along with the straw naturally. But I do not like, I don't like paper straws. I really don't like the restaurants that use like pasta for their straws, because it actually imparts flavor and starch as you're drinking. But this says sustainable straws have become a hot and cold corner of the sustainability movement. In 2018, it was estimated that disposable plastic straw consumption in the United States was up to 142 billion straws per year. That's a lot of straws, and they're almost invisible because you don't see them, laying around on the streets quite a bit. But 142 billion of them are all over the place. During the same year, Seattle became the largest city to ban plastic straws, with a host of cities like New York and Miami following suit. Okay, so let's go take a look at this article over at VinePair. The author is Lily Nelson. Yeah, I've never tried silicone. Oh, really? Wow. Ariella Basson is the author, is the creator of the artwork, by the way, and it's usually really abstract. This one is not shying away from being on the weird side. But it says they judged a total of 11 straws in general categories like size, material, firmness, porosity, and how they felt when we sipped. And then they ranked them. So I'm not going to go through all of them because I want you to go over and read the article and look at the pictures and look at the context of how they evaluated it and what they evaluated in terms of their language. And because I can sit there and say, well, number 11 was cornstarch based compostable and biodegradable plastic. You know what? As long as it is biodegradable and doesn't leave a weird taste in my mouth, like Dreadnought Camo just said, metal straws leave a weird taste. I use silicone. So yeah, I would, I'm going to try and find a silicone straw. Because I use plastic still. And I even talk about it. I have a show called Greenogram that I want to bring to Twitch that talks about being more eco smart. And, I'm not really living what I'm talking about because I have family members and animals that if I don't use plastic, something's going to end up broken and somebody's going to die. So glass is my preferred because you can take glass and recycle it again and again and again and again and again. You can't even do that with aluminum. It actually breaks down greatly over time. So it's lossy in its production, but glass is typically not. And I'm not really a big fan of plastic because there are microplastics that have been found in human beings, living human beings. We have it in our liver, we have it in our blood, we have it in our bodies in various places. Microplastics that have found their way into our system by way of consumption, even breathing. We find microplastics kind of perforating our body. Pretty amazing. I'm not a big fan of rice, straws, nor pasta. I can't even go through all of this slowly. I've used bamboo. I don't like the bamboo. This says reed. I don't think I've tried reed specifically, but when I've tried the bamboo straws, it has a weird woody flavor to it, and so that's out for me. paper falls apart. I take too long apparently, but I guess in a restaurant, it's a good way to get my butt out of that seat. So they give you a paper straw. It has a time limit. And by the time, it's like one of those toothbrushes that where the color fades over time. And when you get to a halfway point on your bristles, you got to throw it away. That's how a paper straw is. Pardon me one second. The air in my office is very dry. Um, so I end up coughing periodically. Oh, I'm running so late. My goodness. I have to go to a meeting. Let me see if I can hurry up. I will never use glass. If it breaks, it's just wildly, wildly dangerous to have a glass straw. I'm not really a fan of metal either. They're all easy to clean, and there's the bamboo at number 4. Yeah, it just left a weird taste in my mouth. There's silicone, very nice. It's number 3 in the ranking. Again, you can go over to vinepair.com and look for reusable, sustainable straws to read more about it. Vegetable fibers I've never tried, other than the other naturally occurring stuff that has existed, but I've never tried vegetable fibers. And then number 1 is agave. And well, hey, if tequila comes out of it, maybe I will try agave straws. I'll have to look it up. So the winner is agave straws. We love these agave fiber straws. Maybe it has something to do with our affinity for tequila. That's where my brain went. And there were no issues with the material feel or durability. The product description even detailed what part of the agave plant is used. It's the stems. So you can read more about it. I'm going to scroll up real fast, and you can go over to vinepair.com. And again, it's the best reusable and sustainable straws ranked by VinePair. I have 3 more articles, so I'm going to run through these real quick. This one is in the Hatch Ideas channel, and it is titled, "The Japanese yen used to be a safe haven, but it has just crashed to a 20-year low as the dollar soars." In the US, a dollar is a dollar, and inflation is still impacting purchasing power. So this really doesn't have anything to do with our internal machinations, but the exchange rate between the US dollar and the Japanese yen, it's basically devalued the yen. So that's why it's now at a 20-year low compared to the US dollar. But the US dollar is taking a beating too, but it's because our purchasing power is being impacted by inflation. So it says the Japanese yen has tumbled to a 20-year low against the dollar as investors ditch the once mighty currency. The yen was once once viewed as a safe haven, currency to take shelter in when markets are rough. And that's primarily because they're an industrial country that produce quite a bit of goods and services. They're stable. They export and import, but it isn't outlandishly imbalanced as far as I recall. And so it was somewhat stable, even though the exchange rate to most people looking at it, but not having experience in finance, it has always been kind of not a 1-to-1 ratio, not by any means. The only way you get closer to 1-to-1 ratio with the US dollar is something like the EU and the euro, in that the composite infrastructure buoys the integrity of the currency. Now, you can actually get other exchange rates where the US dollar is on the weaker side. And you have to give more money, more US dollars to get that other currency. So, and yeah, so Dreadnought, you said limited exports now from Asia. Yeah, and not to mention that there is some conflict still brewing between Japan and China and Japan and Russia, as not just Ukraine and Russia conflict, but there are islands that are being contested regularly by Japan, Russia, and now China or I should say China and now Russia as well. Not to mention North Korea is firing rockets off, and that all plays into the valuation of currency. So let's click the, oh, and it even mentions at the bottom of that snippet about the Russia conflict. This is a businessinsider.com article, and it's coming from Harry Robertson. And again, it's titled "The Japanese yen used to be the safe haven, but it has just crashed to a 20-year low as the dollar soars." That's a hell of a title for an article. Let's see here. Yeah, the yen has lost around 11% this year to trade at 130 yen, essentially 130 yen for a dollar. Oil producing nations, it tends to be the reverse. It takes more US dollars to buy oil producing countries' currency. Sometimes. Not Russia, at least not right now. All of the world's 10 most traded currencies have fallen sharply against the dollar in 2022, but the Japanese yen, by far the worst performer. And that's because their infrastructure has just been completely hammered supply chain wise. They can't, I mean, it's an island nation, so it has limited ability to expand operations elsewhere without having to lose profitability to that other country. And they would have to go to China and say, "Hey, China, can you spin up our potentially future exports?" So the next article is over in the Hatch Ideas channel. McDonald's has lost around 100 million in wasted food and other inventory after shutting its Russian and Ukrainian restaurants. They already lost 127 million related to the closure of its Russian and Ukrainian restaurants. It's continuing to pay wages, leases, and suppliers, even though the stores aren't making money. Most of the losses are down to wasted inventory. Yep, and that is because their supply chain was already in place, and because they didn't, it's just not smart to keep on importing large masses. You kind of do it just in time deliveries of goods so that things aren't idling and getting freezer burn, even though it's mitigated through their particular processes. But at any rate, it's not like you can run McDonald's in Russia or Ukraine right now. Ukraine because they're being bombarded constantly, and Russia because of sanctions. So any U.S. company is going to get hobbled anywhere, unless, like Papa John's, there's a franchisee that's in Russia that is continuing its operations, even though the domestic Papa John's is saying we're not going to support you anymore. They're still operating as Papa John's in Russia. That person also has businesses in Colorado, who may be ignoring the sanctions there too, but that I'm not quite sure of. I thought I read somewhere that he was, but anyway, it doesn't really matter because the domestic one is following the sanctions. So let's click the link. I'll take you over to the source, which is businessinsider.com, and Grace Dean is the author. And that's a neat way, the Cyrillic writing for Russia, where it says McDonald's. That's neat. It just barely teases out the word McDonald's to even just an English speaker. I know no Russian. Well, I think I know a couple of the Russian cuss words, but the last time I said it, somebody slapped me. So yeah, that was an interesting moment. They thought that they were being funny, but they connected pretty well. So let's see what else. McDonald's said in the first quarter earnings it had incurred 27 million in costs related to the continuation of employee salaries, lease, and supplier payments. Well, that's good on McDonald's. So at least they're doing something positive in all of this negative. But unfortunately, I think it's going to be a longer term runway that they're going to need. And hopefully Russia just steps away and allows Ukraine to stay. Just stop bombing them. My gosh, it just, at this point, it never made any sense to anybody, but at this point, it really doesn't make any sense. It seems like they're just, Russia's government is just doing, and Putin specifically is just doing population control. They're trying to uh, kill as many Russians and Ukrainians as possible. Um, and it's just kind of disgusting to me. And sorry to go dark in the stream. I don't typically do that, but um, it's just a horrible situation all around. And so I guess we can end on a lighter note. This is about Victoria's Secret, and I guess the end of an age, because Victoria's Secret has always had the stores in mall presence kind of thing. They've been online, but they've never been um, kind of like a big box seller. They've always been this kind of um, pink and white and frilly store in a mall. Well, anyway, this article has been aggregated into the Hatch Ideas channel, and it's Victoria's Secret is taking its beauty business to Amazon in its first ever wholesale test. Victoria's Secret is going to Amazon. This is my last article for the day, by the way. And just so you know, it's the only article that I actually clicked on before. Oh, I don't even need to do that. Hold on. Doink. It's the only article that I actually clicked on before the stream because I didn't know what I was going to see. And I want this to be a G-rated, other than maybe a couple of colorful words, stream. So it says, with Friday's launch, about 120 different products, including branded fragrances, lotions, body scrubs, and body washes, will be available on a new Victoria's Secret storefront on Amazon. Everybody is going to Amazon. And let's see. I am going to pull up their stock price. So their stock price today dropped so far $384 to land at $2507.84. So they're at $2,508 essentially. And it's a total drop of just shy of 14% by midday. Wow. That's kind of a beating. But I don't know how, well, okay. Well, they have such a massive infrastructure and a supply chain because they are supplied by all of the little micro businesses, and a massive number of Chinese companies are selling through Amazon. And you don't know that they're a Chinese company because the only time you find out who they are is if you happen to look at an invoice after you purchase. And even then, sometimes it's obfuscated in some way. But Victoria's Secret is going to be focusing on their beauty products, not on their clothing. So once we see Victoria's Secret clothing on Amazon, then you know that Victoria's Secret has basically died on the vine in terms of real world space. And it seems really interesting because I never really saw a lot of people clamoring into Victoria's Secret over the last 5 years, previous to the pandemic. And it just seemed like periodically there would be a massive amount of influx, but then it would fade away pretty quick. But it says the move by Victoria's Secret into wholesale is emblematic of a dynamic that many retailers are grappling with today. Brands that for many years operated purely by selling direct to customers, consumers, through their own stores and in their own websites, are seeking partnerships with big box retailers like Target, Nordstrom, and others. And we've kind of seen this pop up stuff on the tech side too, with direct to consumer products popping up stores within big box stores like Best Buy. And you'll have an Apple store inside Best Buy. You'll have an Android, or I should say Samsung pop up, or somebody else. I mean, there's a bunch of different big but kind of pop-up stores that appear inside these big boxes. That's actually happened with Home Depot has had it in at times, like a pop-up store for a particular brand like Samsung. But I just think that what's happening is companies are trying to reduce their carbon footprint. They're trying to find the most expedited way of delivering goods to consumers. And if they can get rid of all of these stores that are just kind of, they're a draw, but if they're not making a certain amount per square foot, then they're a loss. And as I've told many people over the last decade, in my current role and over the last many more decades as a consultant, if you can reduce everything that isn't an immediate sell to a consumer, if you can do that, if you can make it so that it's selling via Amazon and it costs you a little bit of profit margin and you can recover that profit margin elsewhere, do it, because you don't necessarily need that footprint. You don't need that store. That brick and mortar is kind of, it's a drag on your efficiency, unless you're in a very good location and it's almost required because of the type of product or service that you're offering. Like you can't sell things through Amazon that are food-based, because they'll spoil. Bottled goods and other things like that are shelf stable, then you can sell them through Amazon. But there's certain things that you definitely should just not have a brick and mortar store for. You just market locally. Even if it's an online store, you can market locally, have a website and sell it through the website. Even if delivery is ultimately through Amazon, you can sell via links on your site to Amazon and sell through Amazon. And it's much more efficient and effective. Somebody else is doing all of the fulfillment, so you can focus on business operations. Now, there's a lot of context to that, so obviously there's more discussion that would have to take place. It's kind of why I want to spin up that business show on the weekends. And we're at the end of my show, but as usual, you go to the front page of ohmTown, you click on the little logo, it will refresh and give you a whole bunch more headlines. And I'm actually working on a layout issue right now, whereas there are so many pages that it's showing kind of quirky the total number of pages at the bottom. But I'm working on it. So take a look over at ohmtown.com. Don't forget, it's a podcast. Just search for ohmTown, it'll pull up. Go to YouTube. It is over at youtube.com/ohmtown. Hello, Dreadnought. You have a great day too. Really appreciate you swinging by. Thank you very much for hanging out. Wish I could stay longer. I'm actually 40 minutes late for my meeting, so that's okay though. Everybody will survive, and I'll get to play catch up. So, and the podcast exists, the YouTube channel exists, Twitter exists. I got Discord. I've expanded to other podcast locations, by the way, beyond Spotify and Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. I'm trying to be everywhere. So go check it out wherever you want, really. And thanks again. I'll see you tomorrow, 11 o'clock. Bye-bye.